Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I am Stephen Conway. With me, as always, Jeremy Finestone. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network, and we are still coming down off the high of the G1 finals and semifinals, two terrific shows from Sumo Hall last week. Jeremy, we've had a few days to digest. And how are you feeling coming off of that? We've got a lot of things set up for the fall to look forward to.
I'm frankly exhausted, man. And I think I spent one day this past week watching no wrestling whatsoever. I think I binge watched Secret Invasion, getting ready for the new Star Wars show next week. We're in the queue of the stuff in the backlog, and generally just happy to take a breather. Now ready to get back into it and talk some New Japan, my man.
Yeah, I know. I'm catching up on Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Managed to get up to date on that, watching that. But yeah, and Colin is here. Colin, welcome. Glad you're here, buddy. Looking forward to talking about some final G1 thoughts today. And then we're going to preview the two shows coming up this weekend. New Japan has two separate events, both of which are pay-per-view. So one on Fight, one on njpwworld.com, and there's a couple of shows there. We'll be going over those lineups and talking a little bit about what is to come. I mentioned that the finals and semifinals set up a lot of things for the future. We'll look at that as well. So I've also been catching up on the 5-Star Grand Prix, been doing a lot of that, and there's a little bit of news from there. Now, they had a Stardom by Stardom show, Jeremy, and I bring it up here on Speaking of Strong Style because both IWGP based titles were defended on that show and successfully. So we did not have any title changes. Julia defeated is the challenger there for the NJPW Strong Women's title, and then the IWGP champion Mayu Iwatani defended hers against Utami Hayashita successfully. So going forward, we still have the same two champions, and we're still expecting Julia somewhere this weekend in Philadelphia, right, Jeremy? Although I did say that I looked at the NJPW 1972 website, and there is still not a women's match listed under Multiverse United officially.
There's neither. I'd imagine it's going to be finalized on the episode of Impact that airs tonight in a couple of hours. That is, I mean, they still want people to watch that show. I don't know how much of a draw Julia is to the Western audience and how much that's going to impact their ratings, but it's still their programming, and they should probably maximize getting viewers on there and seeing just how much interest that she draws. I'm certainly interested, but I think the prevailing rumor is her and Deonna Purrazzo and Giselle Shaw in a triple threat, which...
Or Momokogo. Sure. I keep hearing things
and
like
Momokogo. So it could be a fatal four-way. I forgot about that part. But the first two seemed likely, and I know Momokogo had mentioned that she wanted to participate in some type of matchup for it. So all the stars seem to be aligning. And it would be a very interesting place to see if anyone made a return if Julia were potentially, retained.
Well, we know what they want to do eventually. We just don't know where Mercedes Moné's health is at the moment and how her ankle's healing and all that. So, but clearly the direction is Julia and Mercedes Moné, which my fingers are crossed that we get to see that one. And I know I'm just saying that I'm going to.
If it happened in Vegas in October,
there
would be absolutely zero objection on your part.
No, certainly not from somebody who's got fifth row tickets
to participate in the enjoyment of that match along with several hundred other people.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at. Colin mentions it isn't it supposed to be that fatal four-way? Yeah, we think so. And like you mentioned, probably Impact. It's a good point, Jeremy. They would probably mention it there because they would want to get at least some hype for it coming up off of their own show. And Colin also mentions he's been trying to catch up on the 5-Star Grand Prix. Me as well, by the way. I'm far enough behind that I just watched the show from August 8th earlier today. That's how much because the World Cup's going on. There's a lot happening. And that show from Kyoto, by the way, I don't know if anybody out there has Stardom World, but the show from Kyoto on the 8th probably better than any one single night of G1, Jeremy. That's how good that show was.
I've heard that the 5-star Grand Prix this year has been pretty tremendous.
Oh man, Natsupoi and Shuri. You had Julia and Mariah May. It had the main event was Iwatani versus Suzu Suzuki. Just great stuff. It's
keep
just
an eye out for Mariah May, man. She's gonna make noise. That is a performer that only big things are in store for that person. You know, like I hope Stardom gets to hold on to them for as long as possible because talent up and down from what I've seen.
And of course, the reason we even bring that up on this show is because they are working with New Japan. Of course, they're both owned by Bushiroad, the entertainment toy and game conglomerate, and both New Japan and Stardom owned by Bushiroad, and they work together. So we've been seeing a lot of this, a lot of these women come over from Stardom. We haven't seen Mariah May, I don't think, on a New Japan show quite yet, but hopefully in the future, because there's big things ahead for her. I absolutely think so. Yeah. So G1 thoughts, Jeremy. This is something now we broke down all the shows and we talked about the tournament. Just in general, I wanted to just bring out a couple of just basic categories here and talk about our perception of what we just saw over the last month. Who is your MVP for G1 33?
I mean, this is such an obvious pick, but it's Will Ospreay. He elevated the entire tournament with the matches that he had. So to get where we needed to at the end, to elevate Naito, you needed to have all of the contenders be elevated to such a point that anyone that beat them in the sequence that they did to win this tournament, like they compounded like all the energy. It's kind of like Highlander, you know, like there can be only one and you just take all their like energy and you defeat them and you're more powerful as a result.
Just like that, yes.
Just like that. There are people out there that will understand that reference. And be like,
I believe you.
And they're like, yes, I do understand it. Naito's win was compounded by how good Will Ospreay was, and Will Ospreay losing to him elevated Naito to another level of like just how much of his push going into the Tokyo Dome should be. So more than Okada, more than Tanahashi, and more than a couple of the other people that lost to him on route, I think that Will Ospreay's performance, in order to make the entire G1 as a whole, like the win of it, it was magnified by his performance.
It's a great pick, and it's also my pick, by the way. I don't think you could really have anybody else in there as the MVP this year, considering the performances involved. I mean, the man even managed to get a good match out of Kenta, who would probably be my LVP for least valuable performer in this one. And, you know, it's just that he was on fire just about every single night, and it was very special to watch him. My honorable mention on that, I have to say, when I look back through my notes at the entirety of the tournament again, I really enjoyed a lot of Shota Umino matches.
You know, I was just about to say, I was like, if there was a guy that made the anticipation of a bracket, like the matches that he had, and like the collision courses of all of his matches just seemed to resonate, and people were kind of coalescing around his matches. Not as much as Yota Tsuji. Yota Tsuji had a couple of those matches where people were like, oh, I'm very interested in the outcome in this, like the SANADA match. But whenever Shota had a match, people were like, I'm very interested in seeing how this goes, all the way to the last night with Hikuleo, where people had their eyes on it, and then when Hikuleo won, the collective jaw drop was, honestly, it was one of the funniest things to watch people's reaction to that one.
Colin said he would give an honorable mention to Shooter for MVP as well. Yeah, had a very strong tournament. His match with Ren Narita, one of the best of the entire thing, and that one went to a 20-minute draw that was just a brawl, and of course they were at each other's throats in all the tag matches once we got to the quarterfinals. And you also saw him in a really good match against Tsuji. His stuff against Kato Kiyomiya was terrific. And I just overall had a very strong performance, and it just goes more and more to my theory on this, that right now Hikuleo is getting a bigger push than the Reiwa Three Musketeers, pushed into the quarterfinals, made into perhaps a babyface Bad Luck Fale, a guy who can get a win over anyone in a believable way, but maybe not the world champion type. But that's a valuable thing to have, a little wild card in there who might upset somebody. And I thought his work was really good. But the reason I'm saying this is I think the long-term plans really have a lot of Shota Umino in mind for big time main events. I think they believe in this kid. I think they should. I also think they believe in Tsuji just because I haven't seen anyone drip charisma like that since Hiromu. Hiromu came back from Excursion in Mexico, where he had been. I always forget the name of his character in Mexico. Anyway, the point is, he was a masked character in Mexico, comes back as the time bomb, and all of these videos with the ticking time bomb and things. And he is one who came in right at the top, went right after Kushida for the junior title, and he has been at or near the top of the junior division every day of his life since, and just had charisma pouring out of him. I haven't seen anybody do that since, including Shooter, who looked a little awkward in a couple of spots, very early on when he came back, is growing into that character he has. Ren Narita, not quite that charismatic thing, although he's in the right gimmick, that straightforward, plowing straight ahead all the time works for a guy that doesn't have a heap of charisma, because then you just have it. Well, he's just so driven that, you can play it off that way. And each of them has their own virtues and each of them has their own weaknesses. But I do think that eventually, I think we're going to be talking more about Umino than any of them eventually. He just seems to have it.
I think he's the guy. He's the guy, and he's the front man on the 3 motorcycles, if that makes any sense. He's the guy kind of running through the finish line first. But the other 2 guys are going to be right behind them in some sort of way. I think Shota's the first guy to win the big title. I think Yota is the guy to chase him. And I think Ren is the least flashiest, but the most dangerous of the 3. And in the long term, he may have the most viability just because of the simplicity of his whole vibe, the Shibata aspect of it, and that's going to play better in the future, even more so than it has in the past. I think
it's interesting, isn't it, with the Reiwa Three Musketeers too? So we can get into this as we go through their first G1 together. They are built upon the idea of the new 3 Musketeers, which was Tanahashi, Nakamura, and Katsuyori Shibata. They have their own parallels, don't they? Because Shota Umino is clearly another Tanahashi, between the hair, the outfits, the hugging all the kids, and just being.
It's a weird fusion, Chono and Tanahashi.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's there's Moxley in there and all that. And the other bit of it is clearly that Narita is doing a Katsuyori Shibata tribute act for right now, and so that one's obvious. But if you look at Yota Tsuji and Nakamura, it's not a terrible parallel there.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't have the MMA background that Nakamura did, because Nakamura was legitimately an MMA fighter and all that too, but
he got the football background instead, so you can kind of pivot on that.
But look at the kind of weird, cool charisma.
You're actually, I see it now.
Yeah,
I think that's the play.
I've been watching older stuff when I can in New Japan, NJPW World. And if you go back to 2010, 2011, Nakamura hasn't graduated all the way up to the Freddie Mercury, Michael Jackson influences that we would see later with the way he dresses and the way he moves in the ring. He's not doing good vibrations yet or anything like that. But you see there is a little bit of, the facial expressions and the swagger in the ring. And you can see that Tsuji is that version of it. So each of the new 3 Musketeers has a version from Reiwa that could be a parallel to them. So interesting to see how that all turns out. And that follows the pattern you just mentioned. Of those 3 guys, Tanahashi was the first to the top. Okay. Next up was the person chasing him, which was Nakamura, Tsuji. Right. And the one that took the longest, and there are some political reasons for this, was Shibata, who left for a while, came back, saw that maybe New Japan didn't have as much of a future as he was hoping for. And he looked around a little bit and then came back, and they worked that into the storyline that he wasn't accepted when he first came back to New Japan at all. And it took Hiroki Goto, his high school classmate, to, okay, I'll team with this guy. I know he's kind of a jerk, but he's my jerk, and we can be successful with him. But at first, the whole story was Shibata was not accepted by anyone, not Tanahashi, not Nakamura, and he had to kind of fight his way back. So that story works, doesn't it? Because Shibata was the third of the three to really rise all the way to the top in main event pay-per-view. So all of that stuff is, everything old is new again, right?
Yeah. And okay. There was a narrative that I saw in the follow-up to the G1, and that is people wanted the gratification of elevating these guys right now. And so there was a trap sprung by New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yes. And it was an announcement that they have labeled Shota, Yota, and Ren as the Reiwa Three Musketeers. And the immediate takeaway from the Western world was they're elevating these guys. But it was a trap, okay? It wasn't to elevate them. It was to create even more obstacles and expectations out of the starting gate that they have to overcome, making their eventual climb even longer because there is even greater challenges that New Japan has put on their plate. And this wasn't like a debutante ball with those three guys. They all lost. They drew. They had terrible beginnings because they didn't have any idea of what they were getting themselves into. This was like, I am the young brash cowboy. I got this. They did not have it. And that was the story of their bracket is they bottlenecked each other. They were unprepared for the true challenges of the G1. And it wasn't until the end of the G1 that they all, in some way, shape, or form, got a win or a victory or any type of, elevation to that half-step climb up their ladder of accomplishment in New Japan. Immediately, this was a trap. And people thinking that they were going to have a great G1 out the gate, that was not the narrative that was planned by New Japan, by Gato, or for anybody whatsoever. They were getting stonewalled.
It's interesting to note, too, when you go back through history of New Japan, a couple of things jump out at you. I mentioned Hiromu Takahashi came in at the top of that division and has stayed there. Kazuchika Okada, Geto knew that he was going to be the IWGP champion when he was still wrestling as Kato in Impact Wrestling, and they were doing absolutely nothing with him. They had no idea. Geto knew, and he was telling people, what happens when Okada comes back. He's going to be champion. And you're like, oh, come on. Geto knew, and he was champion quickly. Like, he came back from excursion, had the match with Yoshihashi, challenged Tanahashi, then beat Tanahashi. Those are real outliers for the way New Japan does things. To launch somebody doesn't usually happen. Look at how long it took Naito. Stardust Naito kind of fell a little flat when he went to the top. Won his first G1. People didn't care for it, right? Voted a different match main event of the Tokyo Dome, famously. That's when they sent him away to Mexico for a little while, or got the idea to. And then he came back. And even when he came back as heel Naito, and LIJ were the biggest jerks on the whole block, he won the title and all that. But the whole... And then he became popular again. And even then, they didn't pull the trigger immediately. Remember how he lost that first Tokyo Dome main event to Okada when everybody thought he was going to win it. New Japan makes you wait most of the time.
Absolutely.
And so Okada and Hiromu are outliers, and people keep pointing to them. Well, they did it with them. Yeah, almost the exception that proves the theory, right? Almost everybody else rose to the top after the fans kind of thought they should. So maybe we should just take a lesson that these guys know what the hell they're doing and things, because most of the time you got to wait longer than you hope to. And there are other examples. Well, I mean, Finlay's been in the company for years, but there are just other folks in that group where, the rise to the top and to the world title level was after folks thought, oh, the timing is right. It's right now. Now is the time to do it. Now's the time to do it. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But what's very consistent is that New Japan makes you wait, with only a couple of exceptions over the course of Geto's entire run of booking, which has gone on since, 2010, 2011?
I will say, there's a scenario that I had in my head about sometimes Geto doesn't make you wait, and sometimes Geto infuriates you at the same time.
True.
It started when I was thinking about the Stardust press. And the destination for Naito is what we're looking for here. So we know that eventually we're getting SANADA and Naito. Naito has only hit the Stardust Press successfully once out of 4 times. Right? That's the statistic I read?
He hasn't hit it very often lately. He hasn't even
25% success rate.
He doesn't do it very much anymore, except now he's starting to do it in big matches and miss it. So, what's that telling us?
That seems like something that you might want to circle around for Wrestle Kingdom is, are we going to see a Stardust Press finish? And we also talked about the parallels between this G1 win and the Hiroshi Tanahashi win. And so I'm going to pull a little bit of threads here because I want to talk about another guy here that I thought actually had a really good G1. Is what if we have a redo of 2018-2019 again, where Naito would win the title, but that's really what we were here for. And then at some point, Finlay challenges him and takes the title off of him almost immediately. And then we set up to potentially Will Ospreay getting his title back 3-year anniversary of Dominion when he vacated it in 2021 and never actually got his title back. And having a Finlay-Will Ospreay feud going into the summertime through New Japan Cup. And then we kind of have a reset of the main title scene and Naito gets his flowers and everything's good. And we can just keep moving forward while revering the past, as it feels like this entire year has kind of done. It's just been reverence for the top stars of the past as they get kind of another victory lap before the new generation really takes over.
Yeah, it's interesting too with Naito because they have slowly progressed him through Wrestle Kingdom, right? He had the main event. It wasn't the main event, was it? He was voted out as the main event, his match with Okada at first, which he lost. Then they had him in the main event again as LIJ Naito, and he lost to Okada again when everybody thought he was going to win it. Then they had him win, and he won, and he got it, but he didn't get to do the roll call. Remember how Kenta attacked him in the ring as he was just about to do it? Will we finally see the victory and the roll call this year? I bet they teased it with somebody starting to interrupt him, and maybe that person stopped. I have a feling we're going to get the roll call this year, I think. But we'll see. They might
one
just
can dream.
They might just keep that on record. Yeah.
I feel like we kind of need to get it one time.
They might keep that carrot on a stick. Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of ways that could go. But again,
it would be more wistful and bittersweet if they actually do it, because I think it says more about the long term than it is like more about the long term. Like, all right, we are going downwards now. Like the end is in sight for this kind of faction and this iteration of everything. A lot of these guys will still be around, but this might be the peak of LIJ as it is.
I thought of another one too, by the way. Kenny Omega, his first big Tokyo Dome main event with Okada, he lost the match. The 47-minute match, and it was all to build things. They knew what they were doing. But everyone thought. I'm throwing around the word everyone here, but
there was an expectation
that Kenny was finally going to do it, right? And then he lost.
This was his time.
Yeah.
Like, the time is now. Why wait? All the arguments were made, and then it was just like, nope, that wasn't the plan.
All right. So I'm going to ask an interesting question here to you, Jeremy, because what is the biggest surprise you had? And the reason this is an interesting question is Jeremy didn't have very many surprises in this year's G1 because you had this tournament so pegged, you won a contest based around it. So most of this tournament, in fact, an alarming percentage of it, a suspicious percentage of it, an Illuminati level percentage of this went the way you thought it was going to. So if you are a member of the Illuminati, I ask you to state it now and let us know officially if King Charles and Beyonce are in, because I think those are the two that I think are theory.
There were no tricks. There's no nothing.
I'm suggesting you control. I'm suggesting you're on the committee that controls the universe.
Oh,
because look, go ahead and tell everybody here. I'm going to let you pat yourself on the back because what you did was truly impressive. Not just to win this tournament, this contest about the G1 tournament, but just how well you did. I'm going to read one for you here, though. You predicted 71.4% of the matches accurately, including a draw, which is incredibly difficult to do. You had this thing dialed in. So we're going to talk about this contest, but then I also want to hear what did surprise you. because there's always a little bit of a surprise in this thing. But
the one match that infuriated me that I didn't see coming was Naito losing to Shane Haste.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I didn't pull the thread long enough. The idea was that Shane Haste, for lack of a better word, was going to rat fuck Jeff Cobb on the last night. Because
yes.
Last year, the Easter egg that you had to remember was Jeff Cobb came so fucking close to making it to the next round. Right. And it was a point of contention. Like he wanted blood for this. And I was like, I looked at that bracket this time, like, he's gonna come so close, but they have to make it closer than it was the last time. And they have made a point of this draw thing. If I would guess any draw in the last bracket match of anything, I'm guessing that's going to be a draw. And I never assumed that I was the only one that did it. I kind of looked to see if the people who were, kind of chasing me had the same reaction. Everyone generally had Cobb, but you knew the jig was up when he had so many points about halfway. I think he had 4 points. He had 8 points or something like that. He had gone undefeated 4-0. And the match just said, like, he's not advancing, and you have to make it dramatic.
Yeah. We both had this bracket exactly correct. By the way, we both thought Naito and Zach with Cobb nipping at their heels the whole time. Yeah. So that was.
I thought Zach was going to be number one, and they were going to make it more like Naito, like barely squeezed in. But no, they made it look pretty dominant. He beat Zack Sabre Jr. Then he beat Tanahashi, like going up the ladder of the hierarchy of like a New Japan Cup winner, former G1 winner, like Will Ospreay, greatest wrestler in the world right now, Kazuchika Okada, like the final boss, just like they told you, like Naito's the guy right now. And like the Shane Haste thing, losing to Naito, like, super, super annoyed about that one.
So let's talk about this thing here. You were in first on day 3, and then you were in first place alone. You were tied for first after day 3 because a lot of entries and things were filtering out. Solely in first place from day 4 on. You correctly predicted 80 out of 112 block matches, 71.4%, and the only person that picked Cobb and Hayes to go to a draw on night 16. So that's the first time in the history of that contest a single person has correctly predicted a match's results. And of course, it was because of the draw, because no one thought that one was going to be a draw. I would imagine that only a tiny percentage picked Haste, maybe as an upset special, but
I think like 5%
just about everybody picked Cobb.
Yeah. I can never replicate this.
So are you retiring? Are you retiring?
No. I was asked by Post Wrestling to return and try again next year.
Okay.
So I feel like I kind of have to now. Like it's not one of those take a while. But look, I can rest on my laurels. I've done it once. if I happen to do it like back to back, like, hey, it's great for our show. Like
I like that you said. I like that you said back to back. You're penciling yourself in for 3.
I have a fantasy baseball league, and I've gone back to back. And so whenever I say that, like I just like it happened like 5 years ago. Okay, so like I'm not nearly as good at fantasy baseball as I was. I had no life. I wasn't married.
I didn't even know you were into baseball. I didn't even know you were into baseball. Who's your team? Are you Giants?
Yeah, Giants. Yeah. But I've had this fantasy baseball team league with these guys for like 12 years, and I got a good team this year. Sorry, no Cubs on there. But no Giants either. Julio Rodriguez and Corbin Carroll are basically propping my team up right now, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Got to get yourself Cody Bellinger. But hey, he's been great.
I've been on the Cody Bellinger trade before. I know what Cody Bellinger is. He's a very talented player, not for my fantasy team.
Either way, congratulations for winning this contest.
Thank you. All I want is to make our show better and for more people to know about it, because I think we make recapping New Japan fun and talking about New Japan, and we love New Japan. We have the G1 to look back on, we have all the stuff to look forward to, and we're here every week, man, so you can count on us to be a source in New Japan for you.
My surprise is something I touched on a little bit earlier in the show, which was Hikuleo getting the push a little bit before the Three Musketeers did. I was off on that. I thought Hikuleo would do well, but I did not have him going to the quarterfinals. So that was a surprise to me. A pleasant one. I thought the guy did real well in the role. I thought personally that either Kato Kiyomiya or Umino were going to slip in there. I have underestimated just how little power Noah seems to have in this whole relationship.
Okay, so I came to a conclusion about that one, and I think that was primarily to prop up Keno. Or Kino?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You talked a little bit about this, that they're doing a bit of an angle back in Noah off this, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They are trying to use this to elevate their top heel right now, whose faction just broke up Congo. And he's the front runner to win the N1. He may not. I'm not paying that much attention to it. But he specifically said that Kaito Kiyomiya losing was an embarrassment and he was going to bring shame upon him. And so there was a reason that Noah wanted Kiyomiya to lose. There are things in there. There is a cooperation here. And while it surprised everybody that this happened, the Kiyomiya saga in New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be a multi-year thing. You know, he is going to be coming and going. He may end up working at New Japan Pro Wrestling exclusively at some point. But the investment here is long-term. And it's just like the Three Musketeers. There is no instant gratification to be had here. I would be shocked if it's Okada and Kiyomiya this year. It would be more likely that it's Okada and Kiyomiya a year from now than it is this year, because it's just not going that fast. You know, there are going to be scenarios that he's going to have to overcome before they just give you that match and give you the outcome that you really want to see.
Keno, by the way, is in A block of the N1 Victory Tournament. They do the 2-block format, A and B, and he has 4 points, which is only 2 behind Masa Kitamiya and Jake Lee in the A block there. So he's right in the mix, and has not wrestled the champion. Jake
if he
Lee
were
yet.
absolutely in the lead right now, I would be a little worried. But him being a couple behind is narratively something that seems far more interesting to follow than, you know, a guy being in the lead the entire time and seeing if anyone can catch him. That isn't as interesting for some people, except maybe the guy who's in the lead of the post-wrestling prediction contest, or like SANADA, and no one can catch them.
There you go.
There's no story there.
Yeah, there you go. And the other part about it, Noah related, to bring it around full circle here, Ryohei Oiwa will be having his excursion basically in Noah. Instead of going overseas, he's going to be wrestling for Pro Wrestling Noah relatively full time. And it looks like he's going to be teaming regularly with Kiyomiya. And including his first match over there, I believe, is a tag match that is going to include Zack Sabre Jr. And Zack, before he was a New Japan guy, was a Noah foreign talent. He wrestled a lot for Noah several years ago. In fact, when Suzuki-gun was on their little bit of a break from New Japan, gone over to Pro Wrestling Noah, the last time these companies worked together regularly, Suzuki-gun went over as the top heel faction and tormented Zack and his, at the time, babyface brethren. So Zack going back home a little bit to Noah, and he's going to wrestle Oiwa and Kitamiya over there. Kiyomiya. There's a Kitamiya and a Kiyomiya, and I keep doing that. I apologize. It's Kato Kiyomiya. And as Colin has very helpfully brought us, that match is on September 3rd. So thanks, Colin. Appreciate that.
So that would mean that potentially Zack Sabre Jr. would be available in the UK the week before?
Could be, right? Yeah, there's absolutely. And that there's, of course, I hear there's an event going on over there that might draw a few people.
He is at the Rev Pro show, and that is also a show featuring a number of New Japan talent.
That looks as good as the damn show at Wembley Stadium does on paper sometimes. But
do you want me to read that lineup real quick, and we can touch on it and then move on?
In just a moment, I want to get some of these comments in here too, because we got some good ones. Colin is saying he's giving the N1 a go this year. It's really good. Yeah, the N1 tournament's good. Pro Wrestling Noah has some good talent, and it's tournament season. We got the 5-star Grand Prix going, the G1, the N1, and there's some terrific talent over there. And so if Colin's giving it a look, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And Venkin Bjorn says, wasn't that the Suzuki-gun takeover where they collected all the belts? Yep, sure was. That's with the total Noah invasion that happened. And then they came back famously to New Japan at New Year's Dash, where Okada had just vanquished an opponent and was feeling good about himself. And Chaos is in the ring after one of those multi-man tags there at New Year's Dash at Korakuen Hall back then. I don't think they were in Oda Ward Gym yet. And all of a sudden, Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Suzuki and Taichi all came running in and destroyed everybody. And they were like, holy crap, we've got a whole new set of problems. And then stacked them all up backstage, Bjorn said. Took all the belts and stacked them up backstage. They have a really nice way of giving the finger, theoretically, to the people that are working on. And Manabu Soya is awesome, according to Colin. Yeah, there's just some really good talent over there. And again, it's one of those promotions, Jeremy. If I had more time, I would probably try to watch more of it between New Japan, Stardom. I'm into CMLL a lot, although they've kind of took all their shows behind a paywall on YouTube now, and I've been watching less of it. But it's just another example of how we're in a golden age of really good pro wrestling right now. You don't always get this. And Japanese wrestling in the 1990s.
It's a Renaissance period.
Japanese wrestling in the 1990s was booming, and you hear about the King's Road, the Four Pillars, the Three Musketeers in New Japan, and everything. But then if you look at what was going on in North America, WWF and WCW were trash in the mid-1990s. It wasn't until the late 90s that either of them picked things up. It was during the god-awful Diesel Shawn Michaels era in WWF, which was falling on its face. And the only year, by the way, that didn't involve the XFL, where Vince McMahon lost money, is when Kevin Nash was on top. And then that's the only time a football league didn't suck money out of Vince. But Kevin Nash managed to do it. So next time Kevin Nash starts proclaiming things about how wrestling should be run, remember the single least successful WWF champion in history on a list that includes Kane and Bradshaw, for the love of Christ.
Get your mid-90s WWF hot takes here on Speaking of Strong Stuff.
No, I know. I get pissed off because people still talk to this idiot. Anyway, and then WCW was great. So you don't get everybody hitting on cylinders very often. And right now I feel like we kind of have that because there's great stuff just about everywhere you look. All right. Anyway, and one more thing from Colin here. There's a guy called Balian Aki wrestling for CMLL. Yeah. Not sure if I've seen him yet. Yeah, I've heard about him. I have seen him a little bit. That looks like a talented dude and somebody that's coming up. But that CMLL, unfortunately, they've taken a lot of their YouTube stuff and put it behind the membership wall. For it's only $5 a month, but again, it comes down to a matter of time as much as anything else.
I will tell you this. Speaking of paywalls and $5 and $10, Steven, there is a Patreon Fight Game Media offer. So there's a $5 and a $10 tier of the Fight Game Media. In the $5 tier, you get audio and audio of The Wrap with Keo Cash and Scott Young, The Boom with Kevin Ely and James B. McDaniel, In the Clinch with Paul Fontaine and Ryan Frederick, The Dynamite Show with Paul Fontaine and Jeff Hawkins, and the 5-Star Joshi Show, alternating with the Double G Show every Friday. So that's Monday through Friday. And at $10 a year, you get that in addition to video of The Boom and the 5-Star Joshi Show. You'll also get the audio from this show and Power Bombshells. And if you don't want to pay that money right away, the first two people that email Garrett Gonzalez at Fight Game Media, GG at Fight Game Media, and try the $5 tier for a month free or the $10 tier for a month free. He is offering that for the first two people that email him at that address. And that is, one more time, let's see here.
GG at Fight Game Media.
GG at Fight Game Media.
Cool. All right. Well, there you have it. And
Patreon.
For the Patreon. And Venkin Bjorn says, I think he's trained by Emi Sakura, that Balian Aki. He appears on AEW during her entrance, so probably. And then we have a comment from Samantha Shipman. We got Sam from Power Bombshells.
Hey, Sam.
Samantha Shipman there. Power Bombshells, of course, right here on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel, Sundays at noon Eastern. And Aki wrestles with May Segura on the Indies and Choco Pro as Best Bros. Saw them in DPW, and they're awesome. So there you go. Some names to look out for. Definitely worth taking a look at there. So with that in mind, we have a couple of shows coming up, Jeremy, and the first one is All-Star Junior Festival. There's a two-night event going on. So one of them is All-Star Junior Festival on the 19th, And then we have Multiverse United 2 on the 20th. Both are taking place at the 2300 Arena, formerly ECW Arena there in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And who doesn't want to be in South Philly in the dead of August, I ask you. But this card, Jeremy, for All-Star
This is a card.
Festival,
this is a card that is happening.
This is a pile of ridiculousness, and I am going to be watching this show, and I will be reviewing it. Jeremy and I are
dividing... Okay, backstage. We decided one-on-one, and I'm sorry to anyone that's really looking forward to this card. I had less than zero interest in this card. I'm sorry. This Junior, I can't.
Mel's here too from the Power Bomb. We got both Power Bombshells. Now I'm really sweating. We've got to be good. And Colin says hi to Sam and Mel. All right. Well, you guys talk amongst yourselves for a moment. We decided we were going to do a division of labor here for a moment for this weekend because there's stuff going on. And we're like, all right, you take one, I'll take the other. And
I'm putting the pictures together for this. I'm like, what the hell is this show?
I don't know. So let's go over this card for the All-Star Junior.
Did Hiromu actually book this show, Steven?
I think so. I think he's been
that's what this is. It's Hiromu Takahashi's All-Star Junior Festival 2023. The actual hashtag is ASJF 2023 or something.
Should be
like
WTF 2023.
But let's get to it. We're 40 minutes into this, and we got to talk about these shows.
Here's your 5-way main event. So 5-way is Fugaz, Soberano Jr. Those are a couple of CMLL guys. KC Navarro. I don't have a ton of data on KC Navarro, but he only has 3 matches listed on Wrestling Data in 2023. But he's worked in a lot in the Midwest. I noticed, and he's done some, but he's been around. I mean, I'm not trying to, this isn't some newbie, but maybe not in more prominent spots. Leo Rush and Dragon Kid, who's a Dragon's Gate wrestler for the most part, and works other indies as well. So, of course, we know Leo from his run there with in the junior heavyweight division.
I know who Leo Rush is.
Sure, yeah. There you go. Yeah, and I'm
not a CMLL guy.
Well, no, Soberano Jr. is excellent. Fugaz is pretty good. So I mean, this will be an air show, basically. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be something.
There's something like 11 or 12 matches on this show. Nothing's getting a whole lot of time.
Yeah. And Colin's asking, is the first one, the first All-Star Junior Festival available to watch anywhere? I think it might be. Check out in the archives of NJPW World there, I think so. Sam's saying that KC Navarro is good. Yeah, he probably is. I mean, judging by the cards that he's been on, I can't say I've seen him, but I believe it. He actually was in Chicago, Michigan, a lot. Some of those cards, but they're cards that contain a lot of good wrestlers. So not just some little indie thing that where it's a bunch of students. It looks like he's wrestling really good workers. I just haven't seen him yet.
Real talk. Anyone watching right now, the Powerbomb shows on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. They're the people. Is it
1 p.m. Eastern? I'm sorry, Sham, if I got that wrong. And Mel, but they're both on
10 a.m. I think,
okay.
It goes at 10 a.m. on my time, so I'm pretty sure that.
Okay. That's 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm sorry.
These two individuals, these are the people, the resources on the Fight Game Media that know the information about these shows. But because it is a New Japan-centric show, we are covering and talking about it. But cap tip to Sam and Mel. They're the ones with the Powerbomb shows that can go deep on the lore that I am not here on.
Okay. So we have Goldie and Vinny Pacifico. That's your kickoff match right there. Mm-hmm. And then we have you're going all over the place here. Okay. There is all right, we'll go with this one. let me scroll down to it. So this is the Pat's King of Steaks Philly Cheesesteak Cup 3-way tag ladder match. I think Hiromu's been into the sherry.
I saw the titles of these and I was like, what? Pat, okay. Actually, I don't know who Low Rider is, but the rest of these guys, Watto had the amazing Best of the Super Juniors match.
Yeah, so we have, let's read off the names of the people listening on that. We have Hiromu Takahashi and Rocky Romero. That's one of the two. Mm-hmm. We have Master Watto and Blake Christian. So those we have 4 really good guys here. And then we have Doki, who's excellent, and Low Rider. He's new to you, but he's a pretty good wrestler. Okay. Low Rider's all right. So
Rocky Romero's having a renaissance 2023 with all of his wrestling in Mexico. Hiromu Takahashi is evergreen. Like, just watching Hiromu Takahashi do his thing is fantastic. Watto had the best of the Super Juniors when Blake Christian is on the rise, and we both love Doki. He hasn't had a whole lot of shine in the Western world lately. He was on the Rampage episode versus Jack Perry, which he outshone Jack Perry. So, yes, Venkin, is it me or are these guys just thrown together? There is a theme to this show, and I think you tapped on it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just want to know, Jeremy, what are they actually going to be hanging from the rafters of the ceiling? Is it going to be a cheesesteak? Is this a cheesesteak?
I think it's going to be a cup of grilled onions.
Oh, jeez. Boy. All right. We'll have to see what in the world.
One corner is a cup of grilled onions. The other corner is a cup of meat. The other corner is a cup of melted cheese, and the other corner is a bag of bread.
See, now that's the question: is it the cheese whiz or is it the slices of cheese? And that's the unending argument when it comes to the best cheesesteaks in Philadelphia. I've never had either one of them. I've never been to Philadelphia, as it turns out, so I don't know.
I do not like the American cheese, so I always go for the other option.
It's going to be a belt with a steak on it. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Tougher than rawhide, that steak.
Yeah, man. All right, so go ahead and put up the next thing, and we'll talk about it.
I have no idea what the order was, and I apologize to you.
That's okay. No. Okay, here we go. So we have the All-Star Junior Festival Tournament, and this is a one-night tournament for wrestlers, 2 matches, and then the winners face off. What they win for this, don't know. They've never told us specifically.
I think it's a cheesesteak.
Kevin Knight and Clark Connors in one match. The other one is Francesco Akira and Mike Bailey. The good news is any combination of these 4 are going to make for 3 pretty good matches on this card. So Akira is fantastic. I mean, it might have been the MVP of one of the best. He was an MVP candidate for one of the best of the Super Juniors we've ever seen. Mike Bailey, same. he was wonderful in that. And then on the other side of that, Kevin Knight and Clark Connors. Knight is just a phenomenal wrestler, has great charisma. He can talk. He can fly, certainly. He's got springs where his legs are supposed to be, just terrific. Clark Connors seems to have found a little bit of swagger as he has joined David Finlay's version of Bullet Club. So here's a little section of the card, Jeremy, that I'm actually pretty excited about. The other stuff is just, I think the 5-way is going to be an air show, which will probably be entertaining in a crash and burn kind of way. I don't have any idea what the cheesesteak match is going to be, but there are good workers in it. But here are 3 singles matches that ought to be pretty tight.
So did they have a match with each other in the best of the Super Juniors?
I don't have that in front of me.
I kind of think that they did, and I think that Clark won. And I think that I would see that same result again. I think the rise of Bullet Club can't really be stopped right now, but Kevin Knight has looked good. He had a renaissance ever since the Super Junior Tag League deal he did with Kushida, and I kind of thought that would kind of continue, but it kind of went away. And we'll see the Jet Setters. Is that what they are now?
Mm-hmm.
If they get back together this next year.
I think Mike Bailey is going to be on the other side of it, going into the finals to face off with Connors, just as Bailey has a big match the next night at Multiverse United. So I would expect him to sort of get that set up for the big show push, so to speak. We have a lucky dip tag match. Now let's talk about this one. Now the rules in this one are just as murky as anything else, but so we will determine partners by a random drawing in the ring. So all these guys are going to come out.
So none of these guys are set up as tags already.
Correct.
This is a mystery vortex tag match.
Yes, they're going to come to the ring and they are going to draw straws to determine who the partners are. The other thing it hasn't particularly done is tell us if this is going to be we have 8 wrestlers, so we don't really know if this is going to be a 4-way tag or 4-on-4. No, I don't know if we're just saying, okay, you guys are red corner, you guys are blue corner, or if it's going to be, okay, you 2 are a tag, and then we're going to make 4 tag teams up. We don't know. They haven't really told us. They might not have decided yet. Who knows? Or like I said, Hiromu's been in there, Sherry. So here are the 8 people: Alex Shelley, TJP, Chris Bay, Ace Austin, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Uncle Nobu, and then 2 members of TMDK, Robbie Eagles, and the now off on excursion Kosei Fujita, and Cheeseburger. Now, cheeseburger has to be in this match because you can't put a cheeseburger in the cheesesteak match. It just doesn't go right. There'll be riots in the street in Philadelphia.
It was right there, and you went for it.
And this show is on NJPW World. This one now, Multiverse United will be on the Fight app. So the only thing
why you can't do a bundle of both of these for like $40 is beyond me. That is primarily the reason why I'm not doing this, is because I'll spend one, Steven will spend the other, and then we will have the entire show covered.
Well, the good news for me is I don't have to wrestle with the Fight app, which has never been real good to me. So I'm happy about that part. I can just watch this one on World there. But yeah, so there you go. We'll see what comes of it. I would imagine that they will play around with this a little bit and probably put Austin and Bay on different teams, Fujita and Eagles on different teams, just to mess with our minds a little bit there. I would imagine. But again, we'll know once they random drawing in the ring, assuming they're working that. I assume that's going to be a work. Good grief.
I mean, they could pull shenanigans where the Bullet Club guys end up being with each other, but it wouldn't serve any purpose if they were going to get a title match, because it would just be Bullet Club versus Bullet Club, and that doesn't make any sense unless there is an angle to be played out of it. If that were the case, I really don't know if Hiromu Takahashi's All-Star Junior Festival is the place for that to happen.
I want to see both. A bundle makes too much sense, according to Sam. Yeah, that's fairly true. And, if we start making sense in wrestling, we're never going to get anywhere.
They are literally filming from the same building 2 nights apart, and they decided to put one on World and one on Fight because everyone loves a New Japan show on Fight.
It's always gone perfectly well in the past.
It's gone so well. Oh, my God.
You had to sit through a Fight delay, didn't you, when you saw the show in San Jose?
The Battle of the Valley. They're like, hey, we're gonna peace out for a few minutes. We're just gonna hang out here for 45 minutes. I think I ended up watching the Roman Reigns Sami Zayn match on my phone during the time, and it kind of worked out. I had a great time, and it was a great show with Monet, and one of the last Tanahashi Okada title matches we'll probably ever see. And wow, Colin Matthey made the choice for this. Colin Matthey, I applaud you. It does seem like a lot of fun, but it seems even more inconsequential to me than the Multiverse United show. That is a slight level of inconsequence. This one seems totally, and I just not the show for me. But if they manage to get people that really want to watch the show, then mission accomplished.
There are a few other matches on this thing we'll talk about now. Matt Sydal and Yo will be facing Bushi and Shun Skywalker. And Shun Skywalker wrestles for Dragon's Gate. He's wrestled for Noah. He's wrestled for Tradition. That's Tatsumi Fujinami's promotion there in Japan. And PWG. He's been with PWG. So, and of course, we know Matt Sydal, certainly, and Yo, Bushi, and all that. So that's one. There's the tag match there. Should be entertaining. The next one we have, there it is, Mao and El Desperado. Now, Mao has wrestled for a lot of companies. He's been in AEW, DDT, GCW, Noah. So this guy gets around. Obviously, if you're booked by all of those promotions, there's some real talent there. Just hasn't settled in at a regular spot as of yet. He'll be teaming with El Desperado, who hopefully is healed up from being cut to ribbons in that.
He looked fine a couple of days ago at the G1.
Yeah, he did. He seemed all right.
Just another day at the office.
And Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne, their opponents right there. So it'll be fun to see Nick Wayne in this environment. I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
I think about El Desperado, and whenever he's not on like a proper New Japan show, I think about the pre-show of Forbidden Door 2, and he's coming out with the best friends, and he's just like, I don't understand what's happening here. Let's just get this over with. He's so popular, but people don't really understand the context of where to pair him with. I know Hiromu is a little bit different, but I think there's other scenarios coming up where you're just be like, what and why did you decide to put El Desperado in this situation?
And Sam says the East-West Express rules, so we get a chance to see that. Little thing, but that's a bit of a throwback. The East-West connection when I was a little kid was Jesse Ventura and Adrian Adonis, so you can figure out how old I am from that one right there. That's the first thing I think of when I hear East-West, but I'm an old man. After that, we have this six-person match. I don't want to call it a man because one of these people is not one. We have Ryusuke Taguchi, Rich Swann, and the DKC against Jack Cartwheel, Starboy Charlie, and someone who has no business being in a professional wrestling ring.
I was going to ask what your thoughts were.
And didn't have any business being there in the first place. This cockroach of a human, he goes by Real One. He used to be Enzo Amore. he used to be a star, but he's always been a dick, and not really interested in seeing him anywhere, let alone in a New Japan ring. So it's a little disappointing that he's here, Jeremy, for me. Not a good human being at all. And besides that, he was a crap wrestler. His whole gimmick was that he was a talker. And he did that fairly well. He got his catchphrases over. He did all that. But then he wrestled. And boy, not so good. And half the time hurt himself, which, anyway, point being, for some reason, I don't know why he's been booked for this thing here when there are a lot of junior heavyweights out there that probably
not
could have
the
taken
first time he's shown up in a New Japan ring.
Well, the first time he's been booked to. You want to explain that?
Okay, so 2018, 2019, the Madison Square Garden New Japan Ring of Honor show. Yeah. There was a tag match with Gorillas of Destiny, and I think...
Did you just say the Gorillas of Dentistry?
The Gorillas of Destiny. I don't think I did, but it's entirely possible.
That's what I'm calling them from now on.
They got pretty teeth. They do. Their smiles are pretty.
They do.
Good.
Yeah. No. It's
and there was I think a 4-way, and at the very end of the 4-way, the tag team of Big Cass, or whatever Cassidy was calling himself, Cass XL, and Real One showed up, and it was a shoot scenario that New Japan was not aware of, in which Ring of Honor was going into business for themselves at the end of the match, and probably one of the bigger face palms that led to the dissolution of that relationship with that level of management, and it's been reestablished through AEW, but he has been there before. Now, cut to the future. I don't know what Real One has had going on.
He's been attempting to be a rapper.
He's attempting to be a rapper. Don't care. Not on my radar. Absolutely not on my radar. If, and I'm going to say if, there is a precedent with those two, with Big Bill. Big Bill got his shit together, and he started somewhere at the bottom at Impact. And if you go to the Mike and JD show, who are going to be on another network soon, back when they did Brace for Impact, they would talk about how good this guy got in Impact. Big Bill. And he needed to start somewhere. He started at the bottom. He got humble. He figured out his shit. And he actually became a contributing member to the wrestling community, and people enjoy his matches. There is a chance that we may be in the same scenario with Real One. And this is the start and at the bottom. He tries. He's in the match. He eats the pin. I'm fine with that. You got to start somewhere. You got to have another chance. If you're done with him, I totally get it. No one is asked to get second chances in this thing, but I don't know if he's done anything so bad that if he comes out here and says, you know what, that was all right, that I'd be like, if you told me that he did all right, I think that would be a seal of goddamn approval from you, given how badly you buried him just now. So if he does all right, great, but I don't know what he's going to do. I just have a little bit of an open mind about this one match, because this is his one chance to say, hey, I'm not the guy that you think I was.
No, the best case scenario is someone winning, someone learning from their mistakes and improving themselves.
Absolutely.
So let's hope that that's what we're seeing here. Colin said Starboy Charlie is in this match too, and he's great.
I've seen him live.
Yeah, no, he's going to be good. Jack Cartwheel's good. Rich Swan's good. Taguchi's good. Real One and DKC's okay. And, Real One I will do my best to keep an open mind. Apparently Mel was there at Madison Square Garden when all that went down.
I was there too.
You were in Madison Square. I've never been to Madison Square Garden.
It was the one time that I went, and it was just one of those, like, I went to New York for that Mania. I didn't go to Mania. I went to the NXT, and I went to the Madison Square Garden show, and then I hung out with my friend, and we watched WrestleMania from his couch and ordered pizza, and I just hung out in New York with a bunch of friends that I knew, and it was a fantastic time. It was better than going to Mania and getting stuck in the rain until 2 a.m. Live. I was chilling, sleeping on the couch. Great.
Just call me peanut butter and jealous. There, I didn't get I've been to New York. I've been to New York a couple of times in the last year, and I just never had a chance to go to anything at MSG. So there certainly weren't any wrestling shows going on while I was there. But
there might be one more match, but I only have one more match on here.
Okay, so let's see. We had we mentioned that one. We have No, I think we got it.
Okay.
I think we covered them.
Cool. And this
Seidel and Yo against Bushi Skymark. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I'd imagine this is going to close out the show.
Maybe so. I would hope so. And Mel says, yep, it was dope. We went out to Mania and had the Escape from New York experience. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's nice. The one I got a chance to go to the Sleep No More immersive theater experience when I was there, and that was a pretty badass thing too. So that was pretty neat.
I've been to an escape room once and it was really cool, but that's all I got.
So after that, Multiverse United 2. So that's the next night. So we've talked about what's going to go on and the frivolity on Saturday. We have Multiverse United, and this show has a little more of a canon feel to it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like some of this stuff's going to really matter after this.
That first one was a hidden gem, man. I had a good time watching that first Multiverse United show.
And it's going to kick off here with Uncle Nobu back in it. And this guy's been really resurgent, by the way, Kanemaru. I think getting the breakup of Suzuki-gun has allowed him to change up his routine a little bit. He had an act with Suzuki-gun, that was specific to that. And since he's broken away from that, I think it's given him a little energy. And he's going to be wrestling Kenny King right here, which should be an interesting matchup. I can't say I would have thought of this off the top of my head, but now that someone says it, Kanemaru and Kenny King, looking forward to it.
Here's the thing about the New Japan schedule and the Impact schedule. There's not a whole lot of dates in which they're conflicting with each other in the near future. So starting at the bottom of the card, all of these titles could switch at any point, and they could do a television program and change it back at the end of a television taping cycle or even at the next show if they're able to coordinate it. So keep that in mind when we're talking about all these shows. With that in mind, I think Kenny King just got this title off of Joe Hendry. And so I don't see him losing to Kanemaru. I don't think this is going to be the flashiest match, but it's the perfect appetizer match to start the show.
And Venkin's asking, is Kanemaru from Five Guys? Yep, one of just Five Guys. And there you go. Maybe he'll eat at Five Guys when he's over there in Philadelphia. We also have an opening match of Joe Hendry, Heath, and Yuya Uemura. I'm going to struggle with that kid's name the rest of my life. Yuya Uemura against Master Wato, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Rocky Romero. So Rocky back on the babyface side. He's the top heel in Mexico, but here he is on the babyface side of this one. And this is going to be one of those showcase matches where everyone gets a little bit of shine and just warms up the crowd. Should be good, though.
Yeah, I think 10, 15 minutes, just get in, get out. Wato should be good. I really want to see some Wato and Uemura get in the ring with each other. I think of all the combinations, I think that one's going to be the one that I have the most interest in seeing how they do grappling with each other.
All right, and then we'll go on to there. So this is the Bullet Club versus the World match. And pull it up here. We have Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Alex Coughlin, David Finlay, Kenta, and Clark Connors. So Gabriel Kidd not in the house for this one, but they've got plenty of Bullet Clubbers. And on the other side, PCO, something wrong with that boy, Josh Alexander, Tongaloa, Tamatonga, the DKC, and El Phantasmo. So once again, anytime you get this many people in a match, you're just going to be seeing a little bit of shine for everybody, a lot of people getting in moves. It'll be fast-paced, and it'll probably be pretty good. But, I can't say this one's going to have a terrible amount of consequence to it, but it should be an entertaining 10, 12 minutes.
This is going to be the first time that we see Ace Austin and Chris Bay interacting with this Bullet Club. And I'm curious to see if it's a nothing burger or if there are some threads that are pulled with it. That is the primary interest that I have in this match because I really do like this Bullet Club, and whether it's going to be the core five and that's it, or if they're really going to keep the rest of Bullet Club threads alive with it. This is going to be hopefully one of those shows that answer that question because it doesn't have to be spent a whole lot of time on New Japan show. I kind of wish Hikuleo was in the match instead of PCO, but you need the 3-3. That would make this match way more interesting than me. PCO does not do much for me as a character, but it is nice to see Josh Alexander back. I think him, Tamatonga, and El Phantasmo are going to be doing some heavy lifting on that side of the team, while Tangaloa is just kind of, there.
For people who don't watch a whole lot of Impact and things or anything outside of Japan, PCO, I think Masato Tanaka is an interesting sort of avatar for him in that it's a person who you watch his match more to see the bump he takes than anything else. almost frightening disregard for his own safety with this guy, and always did, by the way. If you watch some of his matches when he was Pierre or Ouellet or one of the Mounties, even in WWF back in the day, he took some crazy bumps, even against Bret Hart and things. He would do it back then when no one else was doing stuff like that.
There are some people just built differently, and PCO is just built differently.
He's one of them. He's a tough man. Whew. But again, you tend to watch the matches kind of cringing a little bit. And Colin, he says he's still not a Master Wato fan. We're going to bring you around, Colin. We're going to bring you
this match could slap.
Yeah, here's one. Leo Rush and Trey Miguel against Hiromu Takahashi and Mike Bailey. This is one work rate-wise, not much can go wrong. This should be a lot of fun to watch. And just 4 really good workers. Again, 2 kind of makeshift tag teams. Bailey was the pleasant surprise of Best of the Super Juniors. I'm not surprised he did well, but I was surprised at just how well the New Japan crowd took to him. Happily surprised. And we already know the Leo Rush is phenomenal. Trey Miguel's excellent. Boy, I'm looking forward to this one, too.
Is the other rascal in there? The Zach guy? Because I know that they are together. You may not know, but I just realized that he's got a tag with another guy, and it's not Leo Rush. It might have made sense to have a 6-man here, but I guess they didn't, and we'll find out if there's a reason for that.
Okay. And then here we go for the Junior Heavyweight X Division Scramble match. We have El Desperado, Mao, Rich Swann, Bushi, Frankie Kazarian, Kevin Knight, and Chris Sabin. So once again, this one should just be a bit of a spot fest and probably a pretty good one. But again, 6 for 6. There's not much to complain about here.
Who does the climbing spot in the middle of the X Division? Who's the one that does the climb?
Oh, Kevin. It's Kevin, right?
It's Kevin. I don't know.
You think?
I don't know. I'm asking you who you think does the climb. I'm going to go with Mao. I'm going to see if Mao does the climb.
All right. It's the most athletic guy, right?
It's always a guy that's supposed to impress you because you've never seen something like that before, but you see it every time.
There you go. And then here's a match again. I did not have this one on my bingo card, but we have Sami Callihan in a singles match against Doki. Make sense of this one, if you would, please.
I don't get it, other than like these two maybe wanted to have a match with each other. They're like, sure. Obviously, Sami Callihan has a lot more higher profile stuff going on in Impact than Doki does in New Japan. I think I'm leaning towards Sami Callihan, but I don't have an expert opinion other than like Doki is going to have a fantastic showing because he does not suck. He always tries. And this could surprise you, but I do not believe that it is Sami Callihan that is going to be doing the heavy lifting in this match.
Okay. And then we have Colin's happy that Doki is on the card, but he's also a little bit torn because Mao is wrestling on both nights, and now he might have to buy both shows. Yeah, well, hey, it's an intriguing little weekend there of deciding both the Doki Joki from Mel. Doki, maybe so.
The laughter's fake, but the tears are real, Mel.
I love me some Doki. I've been on the
Doki versus Sami Callihan is not exactly the reason I'm buying this show. Doki versus anybody is a selling point. Somehow they've lost money by offering Sami Callihan as the opponent.
Oh, come on! You really that down on Sami? You don't care for him?
I am not a Sami Callihan fan. I feel like he is somewhat of a one-trick pony that the trick wears thin.
All right. Well, the next one is TMDK against Impact. So we have Zack Sabre Jr. and Shane Haste as a team here against Moose and Eddie Edwards.
What do you think? Moose destroys Shane Haste for the win?
I would imagine so. It depends on how magnanimous they are toward New Japan here and Impact. You could see Zack getting a win by making Edwards tap.
I could see Edwards defeating Haste to get a title shot against Zack Sabre Jr. because I don't really think Moose and Zack Sabre Jr. is a really viable match for the 15-minute. It's not really the stylistic thing, but if you did Eddie Edwards and Zack Sabre Jr., I think that could be a much more viable 10 to 15-minute match.
Yeah, Moose does seem the odd man out here. Although Haste, does a lot of surprising power moves. Like he was actually picking up Cobb and things like that in their match. So
it was pretty hysterical. I'm not going to lie.
So we'll see how that one goes. And then we have for the Impact World Championship. Big match here. Alex Shelley against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Wherever Tanahashi goes, he challenges for the big belt. And this is another example right here.
Belt him.
What's that now?
Belt him. Give him the title.
You think Tanahashi wins the Impact Championship?
No, I don't think he does, but I think you should put the title on him.
Tell me why.
It's far more interesting than Alex Shelley. I know that there is a Josh Alexander story. I know that there's a couple other things. But there were people advocating it, and they convinced me back in the other Multiverse United when Hiroshi Tanahashi ended up challenging for the title when Josh Alexander was out. Hiroshi Tanahashi should not be winning the IWGP title or any singles titles elsewhere. But if he were to win the Impact World Championship, it would increase his viability both here and in New Japan in a way that is actually kind of valuable. Also raises the value of the Impact World Championship.
I think that's what I was going to ask. To the Impact audience, would that help?
I think it would. I think Hiroshi Tanahashi and Alex Shelley, there are only a few people that Hiroshi Tanahashi could arguably beat in 2023 and feel like, okay, yeah, he could beat that guy for the world title.
Sam and Mel, if you're watching here still, I'd be interested to hear what you think about this. I know you're more in tune to Impact than I am. Again, nothing against Impact, but I don't have time to watch it all the time. Mm-hmm. Do you feel there, I'm asking the Power Bombshells, if Tanahashi winning this title would help? Would it mean a lot to the Impact audience? Do you feel there's a lot of overlap to where a Tanahashi title run, even if it's brief, would help it out? I'd be interested to hear your comments about that in the chat, and we'll put them up here on the YouTube if we get an answer. And of course, if not, you can always just I'm sure they might cover it on Power Bombshells, which is at 1:00 Eastern. It's noon here, which is why I had noon in my head. Noon here.
But this is me advocating for them to have Hiroshi Tanahashi win this match for a brief title run while he has the Never Six-Man titles. There is absolutely no harm to it whatsoever.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Just some thoughts about that.
There's one more match potentially, and that's the four-way that there has not been announced.
Yeah, we keep hearing rumors, and you said might be finalized on Impact TV about Julia defending the strong women's title against possibly Giselle Shaw, Deonna Purrazzo, and Momo Kogo from the Stars faction there in Stardom. So we're expecting some sort of announcement involving some or all of those women at some point. We do expect Julia to be in Philadelphia at the 2300 Arena this weekend, which is pretty exciting. So we only have one of the best in the world coming. Nothing wrong with that, right? Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. So we have some other events coming up. Just want to mention up here in the future. Tamashii is coming back. Sydney, Australia, September 15th. That's the first time we've had a Tamashii event in a little while there. No matches announced formally for that, but I would expect, Jeremy, we would see Kosei Fujita off on excursion, probably Robbie Eagles.
Hanare?
A good bet there, yeah. And I'm excited to hear that when I go to Vegas and see them on October 28th there at Sam's Town Live, rumor is that's when we're going to get Hanare and Eddie Kingston.
That sounds like a fantastic match. I'm really happy for you as well.
Good. I'm sorry. Before we got Mel answered from Power Bombshells here. So Tanahashi is the ace of the universe. He can help Impact for a while and take her easy until Wrestle Kingdom. So
validated, absolutely validated,
yeah.
Vindicated.
That's her 2 cents right there. We appreciate it, Mel. Thank you.
I feel like the dude from Tomorrow Never Dies or the first Bond is like, I am invincible, and then it's no insult to Impact at all. I understand there's terrific talent there. I don't always have time to watch it, so I don't know how in tune with that whole thing it is. I know people have certainly been on excursion there and things, so that certainly the fans are aware of New Japan. I just didn't know if Tanahashi would. I keep my toes dipped in that Impact world a little bit. There's another show coming up. We'll probably get to talking about it next week, but I'm going to read you off this lineup of the Rev Pro show on August 26th with quite an overlap of New Japan.
Yeah, so a lot of talent on this one.
JJ Gale versus Kosei Fujita. You got Dan Maloney of Bullet Club versus Leon Slater. You've got a Rev Pro undisputed British women's title three-way match. Alex Windsor is the champion versus Mickie James versus Hyen. You've got a tag team. This one's interesting. El Phantasmo and Katsuyori Shibata versus Bullet Club War Dogs of David Finlay and Gabe Kidd. Whew.
Okay.
That could be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Subculture, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, formerly of NXT UK.
Such a good team. They are really
fantastic. They were a gem of NXT UK when they were there. And
which was a gem of a show, by the way. NXT UK was fabulous almost the entire time it ran.
Pour one out for NXT UK. Gunther and Dragunov to cap it off looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're going to face the velocities of Jude London and Paris De Silva. We also have a singles match of Tomohiro Ishii versus Luke Jacobs. R.I.P. Luke Jacobs.
We hardly knew ye.
We got another singles match of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ricky Knight Jr. And then we have a rematch of one of the best feuds of 2021, which is Shingo Takagi versus Will Ospreay. And then main eventing the show, I'm not sure main eventing, but closing off the show is Michael Oku as the champion versus Trent Seven.
Best wishes, by the way, to Will Ospreay. Let's hope he doesn't hurt himself in the Shingo match because he has about 240 pounds to carry at the Wembley Stadium show, where he has to haul around what's left.
I will tell you, only in his dreams is this a nightmare, because from my understanding, this is the match that Will Ospreay wanted for a very long time. I am a little shocked that it is not for that NJPW UK Championship. Is that a tell as to the outcome of this match?
I don't even
take it seriously. Just for humor me for 2 minutes.
Can Will sit still long enough for him to do that stupid back elbow that takes 20 minutes to get there for Jericho right there? That Judas effect thing. That
Hidden blade for the Judas effect. Do you have it? Do you have? Could you imagine a sequence where Will is going for the hidden blade and Chris Jericho hits the Judas effect right before he hits the hidden blade?
He would have to start the Judas effect 3 moves early because he's moved so fucking slow to get there.
Wow, did you have Mexican food right now? Because you were spicy.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's going to be a one and done. In my mind, Will Ospreay should be winning this match, and there should be no question about it. My misgivings, and this is all based out of AEW Dynamite, is that I do not like that Will Ospreay, who is one of the best wrestlers in the world, is being treated as a goon for Don Callis to exact his feud for Chris Jericho. Don Callis, I don't care if the narrative is that he has hired Will as an assassin. He is paying him a lot of money to take out Chris Jericho. All well and good. There is a way to portray Will Ospreay. And I feel like they are missing the boat on it because they feel like there is already free money in putting Will Ospreay in the near main event of Wembley with Chris Jericho. Now, I don't know how you portray this guy as a heel on the show when he is going to be cheered out of his goddamn mind at Wembley. 80,000 people losing their mind for their boy Will Ospreay coming out there and showing everybody. You can't lose that. You can't lose to Chris Jericho at Wembley.
I don't know.
I can't. I'm saying it out loud, and I'm just like, no, you cannot do that.
I don't know. So, and the Colin said, if Will has wanted it, then fair enough. I sure as hell wouldn't have booked it either. Yeah, I wouldn't either. And they said, how else is Jericho going to get 80,000 people to sing Judas at Wembley Stadium? Yeah. And let's see. This better be the last match before the main event going to Vegas. Yeah, it's puzzling for a lot of reasons. The babyface heel dynamic is incorrect. But again, we're talking about Tony Khan here, who is still
fantasy booking New Japan Pro Wrestling at every opportunity.
Yeah, and I think he's only made it to 2018 when he is looking through the archives of new NJPW World, because he still thinks Suzuki and Tanahashi are the main event guys from New Japan. So it's just I don't
like him being treated as a second in a stable, and he's doing this for the money, and then he's going to go to Wembley and get cheered out of his mind. The whole thing just doesn't work for me. But I know that they have him and they have this show and they slap together a story that somewhat makes sense, that still focuses on Chris Jericho as the star. But if you have Will Ospreay and you have 2 tapings to get this guy over before you go and put him in the semi-main event of this show, like, you got to do better than this if you think that this is going to be a viable guy to build around in the future. You just got to.
I'm very curious, by the way, to see just how much they're paying attention to British culture and if they actually do have the sing along to Sweet Caroline before the main event, because you do that in England. That's one of the things you do at boxing events and things. You have the little pause, a little moment there before the main event. You play Sweet Caroline, and everybody in the building sings along with it in front of 80-some thousand, 85. It's incredible that AEW has managed to sell that many tickets, most of which came out before the card was announced. Brilliant work by everybody at AEW to get this thing done. And I'm bitching about this match, yes, but what an event this is going to be. It's going to be fantastic. And it's just going to be a thrill. And I hope to see that, because I think that would be a real blast if they did.
There is another match that I wanted to know if you think that there are going to be New Japan talent involved in, and that is the Anarchy in the Arena Stadium Stampede match between the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, the Lucha Bros, Eddie Kingston, and then the Blackpool Combat Club. So it's a 6-on-6 with 3 people not yet announced. Now, there are 2 scenarios. One I kind of came up with, and one that was discussed with on Paul Fontaine and Jeff Hawkins, the Dynamite Show, the recap last night. And the first one is Shota Umino and 2 other people. Those 2 other people could be Santana and Ortiz. But
I would like that.
But is it possible that those 3 people could be Zack Sabre Jr., Shane Haste, and Mikey Nichols of TMDK?
Zach in Anarchy in the Arena, or the stadium, or whatever they're going to call it there, that I don't know if that works as well, Zach. I mean, I guess he could do it. I mean, he's certainly talented enough to do just about anything, but I don't see him as being in a stadium stampede type of situation. It just seems like an odd fit for Zach. Shota, yeah, I could absolutely see that. Boy.
You see another match that you could potentially see Zack Sabre in?
Well, I mean, you could put him in with a lot of different people and it'd be pretty damn good. Unfortunately, one of them's got a broken arm, but the one that I was hoping for. But I mean, there's a lot of things you could do. A lot of things with Zach. I mean, you could put him in with a lot of the great workers in AEW. Would be exciting.
I don't know if he's going to be on the card.
I don't know.
I have no idea, but it seems like.
But it seems he's at the Rev Pro show the night before. He said, though, right?
He's at the Rev Pro show the night before. It makes a ton of sense. He's firmly in Ring of Honor plans right now, according to the tapings that they did going into because they did Ring of Honor tapings last night at the Dynamite show because their whole schedule goes wonky traveling to the UK. So I don't know, but if there's any other New Japan talent, I would think that Zack Sabre Jr. is like, how do you miss on getting this guy on your show, especially if you're using him regularly on some of your tapings?
Yeah, Shota Umino makes a ton of sense. I'd almost be surprised if it weren't him.
Yeah.
As far as who else would be there, I'm puzzled.
I heard a suggestion of Minoru Suzuki, and because Suzuki is the mentor of Ren Narita, who is currently in a blood feud with Shota Umino, I would be incredibly disappointed in the nerd chronology aspect of it that something was so blatantly ignored.
Yeah,
but it has been ignored in the past with a Forbidden Door. Tony Khan really does like to fan book New Japan Pro Wrestling according to his whims when he gets his hands on those guys. So I'm not confident that it's going to make a whole lot of sense if there are a random 3 people in there, Shota and 2 other random people, but Tony's show and they damn near sold out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things they could do. It doesn't necessarily have to be New Japan talent in there, but Umino makes a heck of a lot of sense.
So there's one more show in here that has been announced.
Yeah, the Copper Box Arena. We have Royal Quest 3, October 14th. And the only thing we can suspect on this one is that we will likely see that UK title defended by Will Ospreay there, probably the Yota Tsuji match. Mm-hmm. Yota, of course, had a lot of his excursion take place in England, in the UK area, all around. So he makes a lot of sense as the challenger for the UK title for this one. That's where he was before he went down to Mexico. So, Yeah, Royal Quest 3, Copperbox Arena in London. I would suspect Ospreay versus Tsuji on top. And then who else? Who knows what else? I mean, we saw one of the best matches of the entire year there last year when we saw Aussie Open and FTR at a Royal Quest show.
Oh, I bet the Mighty Don't Kneel versus Bishamon might be there.
That could very well be a place where you could have that match. Yeah, that would be a very good choice on that one. But that there's just a lot of interesting shows.
So we have the Destruction in Kobe tour.
I also want to mention for the October 28th show in Vegas, not announced but suspected, is the match. That's a place where they could do the strong titles, the strong tag team titles there. That could be the match with Hikuleo and El Fantasmo challenging for those. That was hinted at the G1 finals, and that could be the place where that match.
So we're looking at Destruction in Kobe being headlined with Evil versus Sanada. We're looking at Royal Quest having Jeff Cobb and Naito and potentially Will Ospreay and Yota Tsuji. Then we're going to be going to... Could they be doing Jeff Cobb and Naito at in Vegas? Because I know they advertised Naito for that show.
Maybe. I mean, that's possible. I mean, keep in mind, I think
it's just a singles match. There's no titles or anything on the line.
I think we also have to get through a King of Pro Wrestling show at some point in the fall too. So there's plenty of places to do things like that. And I think a Naito Cobb main event with the title shot at Wrestle Kingdom, that feels more like a Japan main event to me.
If they want to give Naito a consequential match, I know that they did a consequential Okada match in the fall before he had his campaign against Jay White this past year. There was a show, and so they like to do those kind of matches, and they tease things and give it a little bit of consequence. And knowing that is just a stipulation that likely is just an obstacle for Naito to overcome. It doesn't really seem like... It seems like it's very possible that Naito could be having that match in Vegas, just based off of other shows that I've gone to and the level of the top-heavy aspect of the main event.
I wouldn't complain about seeing it live.
It'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. So yeah,
we ought to get a bunch of comments and then wrap this thing up.
Yeah, let's do that because there's been some good stuff on here, and it's worth noting too. An important thing going on is how Impact books their women's division. Vankin mentioned, I hear Impact books the women's division better than AEW and WWE. Mel mentions Truth. I keep him on my DVR and we dip in. And Colin says that Scott D'Amore knows what he's doing with the women's division, so that's healthy for the entire business, and they have. Some good talent over there on the women's side. So if Julia gets involved with Giselle Shaw, Deonna Purrazzo, Momo Kogo, I think that some real good things could come out of that. So yeah,
I definitely think that if that match happens on Sunday night, I think that there will be very clear conversations about the direction of who Julia faces next come Monday morning.
Yeah, and of course, like we mentioned, we know that Mercedes Moné is where they eventually want to go with that, and anybody that's a fan of wrestling wants them to go that direction as well. I certainly do. And Venkin says Subculture, one of the best things of NXT UK. Yeah, man, that was a good show. You're right.
I like Subculture more than I like What Culture, but I'm going to leave it at that.
So yeah, and so we've got a lot of big events coming up, and next week, of course, we'll be reviewing those two shows. We'll talk all about Multiverse United 2 and All-Star Junior Festival, and what wackiness I got to see, and what Impact New Japan stories Jeremy got to see, and we'll be looking ahead to what's next, because not too long after that, the Road to Destruction shows begin up again in Japan as a series of house shows go on, some of which will be on NJPW World for us to view as they lead up to the big event in Kobe. So yeah, lot to come.
Been a journey. We're going to keep on rolling, and just another good week in New Japan, man. Just kind of basking and, good vibes out of the G1. I generally had no issues with the rebuild era of the G1. Having conversations with a few other people about, taking it down to 6 people a bracket or, going 11. It's like there are mathematical issues about the scale of matches per people and time that, as much as we hate 4 brackets with 8 people in it, logistically, it makes a lot of sense. And hopefully we get better narratives and better stories out of the booking next year that make people happy.
Yeah, and I believe in Geto. I believe the Geto still has. I don't think the well has run dry at all on Geto. I still think he has a lot of great stories to tell us, and I think he will right there. So, yeah, lots to come. And also, Jeremy, I wanted to mention, because a couple of weeks ago here, you said that you would like to know more about the history of Toru Yano a little bit, because we've been talking about him being the Clown Prince of New Japan, and that his matches in the G1 are the guy's nights off. And I continue to lament for the old, violent Toru Yano. And you were asking a little bit about that, because I don't know if you hadn't seen a whole lot of the mean, nasty Yano. Well, I've been putting together some research. So in the coming weeks, we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of Toru Yano and how he went from a most violent player to the Clown Prince of New Japan Wrestling. And
the Clown Prince of crime turned to the Clown Prince of comedy.
Yeah, because it seems strange. There was a time when he was one of the meanest, nastiest bastards in the whole company right there. It's hard to imagine now, I admit. But the difference between old Yano and new Yano is the difference between the
athletic tape and trainer's tape.
The old sheep herders and the bushwhackers, for instance, again, for people my age. And if you are my age, sorry, your back hurts so much. So if we're ready to go on to that.
Feels like the difference between athletic tape and painter's tape.
Both of them used liberally in professional wrestling. So there you have it. Anyway, Jeremy, anything else to add? Where people can find you, blah, blah, blah.
Share Finestone at Twitter. I usually just talk about this show. I'm insufferable. Love me. Thank you.
And of course, I'm at Stephen Conway 88. So I want to thank everybody who's watching live. I want to thank everybody who's listening to us on the podcast feed. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. But if you're listening as a podcast, you already know that. So we won't spend too much time on it. Thank you very much for joining us this week and watching us and listening to us. And we will talk to you again very soon.